Dak Prescott, thumb surgery, out 6 to 8 weeks, might miss 9 weeks because of the bye. I don't know what to think about CeeDee Lamb going forward. What does it look like for CeeDee Lamb moving forward?
It's going to be a disaster.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Hey, you know what? Can we start with the big breaking news? We got news now that Dak Prescott, thumb surgery. It sounds like a UCL, a little thumb fracture in there as well. They're going to have to pop some plates and screws and put some hardware inside that thumb, man. None of it sounds very good. Sounds like he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, might miss 9 weeks because of the bye, come back, week 10 or 11. All right. So, to me, none of that sounds very good. And I tell you, look, I know we sit here and say, okay, don't overreact to week one. Don't overreact to week one. But my guy, CeeDee Lamb, looked lost in the woods, dude. I don't know what to think about CeeDee Lamb going forward. Certainly we have to downgrade him in fantasy, but just in terms of real life football and in fantasy, what do we think about CeeDee Lamb?
Well, a couple of things here. I mean, it's pretty tough to script a more troubling start to a season than what the Cowboys had last night. That was honestly even before the Dak Prescott injury, James. I mean, right. The Dak injury hammered it home, but, CeeDee had like 11 targets, 2 catches on the night. And, honestly, I wish – look, that was – to be fair, the Bucs have a good defense. They've got a good secondary. They've got a veteran-laden group there. But it was basically like all of the things that could have sunk the Cowboys' offense did sink the Cowboys' offense, even with Dak on the field there. I mean, the more I thought of it, I guess it finally, like, the light just clicked when Mike Tirico at one point, when Dak Prescott, flings a prayer ball down the sideline and, he says, "Oh, Simi Fajoko's down there somewhere." I'm like, dude, what are we doing here with this Cowboys receiver core? I had somebody ask me, do you think like CeeDee Lamb is a legit number one receiver? And I do think the answer is yes. Like, I think he can be a legit number one receiver, but honestly, it doesn't matter if you're a legit number one receiver when the rest of your guys are like maybe 5 and 6s on a roster. And they're having to roll like Noah Brown. I can't even remember the UDFA that they threw out there last night. And Simi Fehoko, like I mentioned, I think it was Houston or whatever was the guy that they played.
Dennis Houston.
Right. Here's the deal, man.
Who the hell is Dennis Houston, bro?
I'm going to go back and obviously chart CeeDee Lamb and watch him and stuff like that. But at the same time, I know exactly what happened just watching that game last night. You could see the Cowboys were just being squatted on by the Bucs defense. When your guys down the field are freaking Noah Brown and Simi Fehoko and the boys, you don't respect anything deep, especially when you have pass protection problems because your offensive line got hurt in the middle of the game. Right. It was just an all-out disaster situation. I think everybody out, folks that know reception perception and know my stuff, I don't put a lot of stock into the average separation as a talent metric, but next gen stats did show that CeeDee Lamb had 1.9 yards of separation last night. I don't think that's a CeeDee Lamb problem. It's I don't think Dak Prescott attempted a non-tight window throw all night because the defense was just squatting on zone, in zone coverage in the short to intermediate areas all night. It was a disaster.
I saw it more as an offensive line problem, similar to what we saw with LA and Buffalo. I thought Dak could have played better. And first of all, anyone who's saying, trying to apologize for Dak, stop. Come on. Yeah. Look, he could have played better. Absolutely. He did not make certain throws, made some bad reads. And you could say he was, was he under direct? Yeah, sure. Of course. Look, a 33.3% pressure rate, which is really high. They got to Dak 4 times, right? So they sacked him 4 times. A 33% pressure rate is high, but it's not oh my God, Plus, again, the Buccaneers, they were squatting on some things. There were zones out there, but hey, listen, they did blitz. They blitzed with 5 or 6 guys on what is it, 15 of 40, pass attempts. I mean, so they came after Dak too. So he had some opportunities in some one-on-one situations. But to your point, Matt, one-on-one situations don't help you when Noah Brown's one of your one-on-one guys, Exactly. Just like when we're talking about the woes for the Rams and how the Bills are just so damn good defensively. Tampa Bay is one of the 2 or 3 best defenses in the NFL. I don't care what anybody tells me. You know what I mean? they're from at all levels. When you're talking about safety, corner, linebacker play, defensive line play, they have it all. You know what I mean? So where do you beat these guys? And then when you're talking about an offensive line, who, by the way, suffered more injuries as the game went along as well. That's tough. That is really, really tough. So Dak could have played. It was just a complete system meltdown. Looking forward, what do we think about CeeDee Lamb? Because, man, I think the number one narrative I think I heard and read is that CeeDee Lamb is not a true number one. I could not disagree more, and I know you're in that same camp as well.
Yeah.
But what does it look like for CeeDee Lamb moving forward?
Yeah, man, I don't know. It's going to be a disaster. By the way, Cooper Rush, the guy they're probably going to start for the foreseeable future. It's talking about the Cowboys are looking to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers are not trading the Cowboys of all teams, the Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
It's they're probably not going to find some immediate answer somewhere. Plus, onboarding a quarterback in the middle of the year is always tough. So they're probably rolling with Cooper Rush, who is a guy that they cut off the roster. I mean, obviously they brought him back, but that's what they thought of Cooper Rush. It's just a bad situation for any quarterback, including Dak Prescott. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that really just don't think Dak is that good. And, maybe Dak is the Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins-ish territory of quarterbacks. I think he's probably closer to that group than certainly the Mahomes, Herbert tier of quarterbacks. Right. So imagine if Kirk Cousins was playing in this situation. Imagine if Derek Carr was playing in this situation. It wouldn't go very well. Most of these beyond the guys like Allen and Herbert and Mahomes and, the greats of the greats, most quarterbacks are products of their situation. I think Dak and these guys are better than, Jimmy G or something like that. But
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But I just think this is a rough spot for any quarterback to find success. It was going to be rough for Dak to find success in this environment. It's going to be rough for Rush to find success too.
One of the problems too is, they're going to have to get schemed out of it. Bruh, that's a tall task. We're looking at Mike McCarthy and the guys to scheme out the quarterback. Oh man, I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's possible. Oh my goodness. The Dallas could be in a little bit of trouble. It's funny, Matt. I actually woke up today thinking, I wonder if CeeDee Lamb is a good buy low candidate because again, his value cannot possibly be any lower than it is here today. But then I was thinking about, what's the real upside? And right. I'm not
what are you
really
trading
sure,
for him, right?
Right. I'm not really sure what the upside is. I don't see him as a top 12 fantasy wide receiver for the next 10 weeks, right?
I will have the rest of season rankings on the site by not by the time this podcast is up, but by midweek. On the reception perception site, CeeDee Lamb is going to be a tough one because I had him, at oh my God, I had him at wide receiver 5, so he's gonna be probably the biggest dropper of anybody. Yeah, he's going way down.
Dude, just talk to me through the mentality here. Where are you pushing him now? Outside the top 20?
My tier 3 cut off at wide receiver 18, which was Deontay Johnson. And tier 4 started with Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown.
He's ahead
Jalen
of those
Waddle.
Guys. He's ahead of those guys. He's ahead of those guys because he's better than those guys, and they're going to see similar targets here. Now I get the quarterback. Right. The quarterback's not great, but I mean, come on, he's better than those guys. They're not going to see Tampa Bay's damn defense every week, dude. Come on, he's got to recover somewhat. Godly.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, that is probably just a worst case. Like I said, you can't script a more troubling start, but they do get the Bengals in week 2. And that's not necessarily the softest landing spot. The Bengals defense is pretty decent. So I'm still thinking about it, but he won't be top 15. He won't be top 15.